Hey, good morning. It's 5:58 a.m. It is early Sunday morning. I don't remember the exact date though. I don't know. I guess, you can't blame me since every day is the same. So, sometimes I have to remind myself what month it's in. I'm in, especially when I look outside the window and it's a dark day and it looks all gray outside. And like, it almost looks like it's winter. It's like you start losing track of time, you know, which by the way is another sign of a person who has been a victim of human trafficking. Now some people don't even know what year it is, like, depending on how isolated they are, because some people are prevented from leaving their homes. Some trafficked individuals may be staying directly with their handler, and the handler is keeping them away from any sort of time telling device or whatever. So but my case is a little bit more mild than that, but still, it's like, I'm losing track of time because it's like, I don't have any activity in my life. So anyway, I'm here making this video, and I was thinking about, I guess the face of power. Like, what does power look like, in terms of how it works throughout society? And I don't believe that truly diplomatic people or people who have good social navigating skills are necessarily the people who are placed in positions of power, not just like within communities, but like probably world governments and whatnot. It's a lot of power, and it can go to people's heads to where, they become extremely abusive with their power. And I understand this is one of the reasons why here in the United States, like for example, we have like checks and balances in the system of government, and it's supposed to be, there because they want to, you know, pick out the pros and cons of certain decisions that gets made by lawmakers or whatever. But the thing is that, even these people, it's not so much that there may be corruption in that system, but when it comes out to the public sector, because I think laws and things are written very well. They're written to the point of where it really does correspond with the cause and effect of nature. Like, if you commit a crime, obviously there should be an eye for an eye or whatever, but it has to be, the punishment should be justified. And I know how laws are written, but that's not necessarily what gets implemented. It doesn't necessarily get implemented throughout society. People don't exercise it. They don't acknowledge it. There's some people who are completely ignorant of it. But I do know that it's possibly, it is human nature sometimes to put ourselves in front of our needs, in front of other people's needs. And when you are in a position of power, you want to serve people, meaning you're supposed to know how to be diplomatic, how to resolve issues that is going to promote peace on both sides. Not everyone has those skills. Okay, that's a very difficult thing to do. You're never going to please everyone. This is true, but you should be able to bring some sort of compromise. Again, when it comes to opposing sides, it's a political strategy that most people lack. That are in positions of power. It's usually leaning one way, and this divides people. So sometimes it's good to hear from an independent voice, such as myself. Someone who doesn't take a social stance when it comes to anything political or anything specifically on a religious basis, meaning, of course I believe in God, but I'm just saying is like, I understand that we have rights here. We have rights here, especially where we live in this country. And, if you're somebody who, follows biblical standards, then that's fine. And all the more reason why you have to check your behavior. Otherwise, you're just a hypocrite. You know what I mean? So anyway, yeah, sometimes I just think about stuff all the time, and I'm like, wow, I'm trying to keep a good mindset this morning. I mean, not that I feel like I'm optimistic about my future or anything, but it's more like, it's just a day-to-day process. Like, you don't know what's going on. You know that your life is in the hands of people that have obviously shown you that they care very little about you as a person. So, you come to fear, what's going to happen to you. I know that, I've been mobbed out of my jobs and mobbed out of just about every institution, meaning like school, whether it's school or work or maybe like a training class or something along these lines. It's always been this environment that is toxic around me because of this issue. And I can see how quickly it can become toxic. These so-called good people start showing their true colors, or they just, yeah, they do. They start showing their true colors. And I wanted to touch on this issue yesterday in my video about how we don't really truly know people. Like, when you come to the realization that you've been a scapegoat in your family, it becomes shocking. And then you start putting the pieces together. And even though, like I said, you have disagreements and stuff like that when you're a kid, you think it's just kid stuff, but you realize that people that you've known have had this sick, twisted desire to do you harm. And once that comes to, you come to realize that, whether it was something like this sort of human trafficking, or just, trying to nitpick you in a public sector, like maybe at work or whatever, to try to like pick on you and whatever, that these sort of things are very damaging to people. That it is. Like if your kid was being bullied at school, the first thing you would do is you'd march up to that school, and you either want to take that kid out or make sure that kid switches teachers or whatever. You're not going to put up with that sort of thing. But when it comes to me, it's like there's no fucking regard for who I am as a person whatsoever. None. To the point of where it's fine to mob a person out of a job. It's okay to do that. It's okay to mob them out of the job and then put it out into the community to where a person can't find another job or take care of their basic needs. I feel as though that I still deal with that on a daily basis, that knowing that somebody would do something like this. And then also, the constant gossip and stuff, and just all of it. But anyway, I don't want to go too deeply into that. Mostly this video is just me thinking about, what is true, democracy, or what's true freedom, what's true, what does it really truly mean to be like a wise and strong leader who doesn't allow corruption to enter into it? Is it impossible to find these sort of leaders? I kind of think so, because you're human, you know what I mean? You're human, we are human. And so, there are some people who take the words of leaders and they truly are convinced that some people are like led by God. And it's so funny because it's like, this is where you use your discernment. This is where you start asking yourself, okay, well, if this is true. And I know people that have this inconsistent bullshit about, basing certain behavioral traits on their religion. Like, like, they defend, oftentimes in my case, when I was dealing with a lot of this, the very fact that, and I've mentioned this before, that there's several denominations that were against me, that were being used to, I guess, bully poor little old me, right? Anyway, but it's always based on, like, when you're in this discussion with them trying to find the reason for what they're doing, they don't really have any reason. So they'll use religion, and it's like, okay, that's fine if you want to see it this way, but it's not a unified thought, okay? Because like I said, there's different views. And there's some Christian denominations that allow and accept women as equal, although they they'll say, well, in certain situations, like the man is the head of the household. This is true, but this does not give someone the right to, what do you call it, dominate or abuse a person. And there's a balance there. So anyway, but once again, I'm not married. I'm not married legally or spiritually. I'd like to, reiterate that. But anyway, but there's always this issue. So I don't know. It's like, what is the ultimate authority when it comes to how Christians are supposed to behave? And I would say that it would have to be the Bible, because if you're just being led by man, well, I can throw in a bunch of stuff. Like, I can create my own religion if I wanted to, and I could, like, convince people to give up their worldly possessions and put them in my possession, and I could brainwash people with all kinds of strange things that are based off of my personal ideas. So, how should a Christian, a person who claims to follow Christ, how are they supposed to behave? How are they, and I would say that their guidance should come from this particular manuscript that we call the Bible, and but also take, the advice, or the look at the behavior of how Jesus behaved here on earth, and then also know that his behavior would not be anything like what I've experienced. It wouldn't be that way. And his message has always been, one of being joined with, I guess, the Father, God the Father. And it's always been something like, well, his message was presented to the people, and you either accepted it or you didn't. And he never tried to, what's the word for it? Polish it up, or, make it more palatable, by, using certain tactics or whatever. It was just, this is the way it is. This is, this is a certain thing that you have to follow in order. He would give the word or the message or whatever, and you either accepted it or you didn't. And there is no point in trying to force somebody to see things, your way. So, then there are certain religions, like in, Christian denominations, where, I've seen where women are, in some religious sects, like I mentioned, the Pentecostals, they're like, they have these dresses. They're very distinct. They have a distinct hairstyle. Once you see one, you know exactly how to identify them, okay? And there are certain Christian denominations where women are allowed to get their hair cut. They can dye their hair. They can, they can wear makeup. They can do these sort of things. And they all vary. And they're Christian. They claim to, so it's more of, this particular religious cult, which I'm going to call it a cult because it has obviously shown me that it is being directed by a human being who has very autocratic ideas, and there are followers and people who have associated with these people. So I'm going to, I feel as though, obviously I do believe, I know, I don't believe, I know it was a wrong thing for these people to do this. But I'm not trying to drudge up old stuff, but I will say that I'm dealing with the trauma of, seriously, I am dealing with severe trauma over this issue. And it's not what I would say something that should be brushed off. It's something that is a concern of mine. If I'm up at 5:58 in the morning, and sometimes I go to sleep, at a very late hour, which I don't think I did last night. I think I went to bed at a reasonable time. I think I did anyway. I don't remember, to be honest with you. But I just feel as though the behavior of people, the lack of information, the lack of understanding is, it's shameful. It's just absolutely shameful. But this is what the world we live in. This is the world that we live in. We live in a world that is extremely hostile. It is competitive. It's very cutthroat. There's a lot of abuse of individuals, human beings, and they normalize it. They do. They normalize it. And I was thinking this morning, as I was getting my little warm drink here, I was thinking, how many homeless people are the result of somebody bullying them? How many homeless people possibly, really, I mean, like in this community here, just alone, are the victims of, employment shunning or blacklisting, based on disagreements that really should have never escalated to that point. Like, because, somebody might be different, have a different opinion, different view, whatever, which they have the right to. And then somebody is basically heartlessly bullying this person to the point of where they are where they are now. I mean, we look at people in these unfortunate situations, and there's a lot of women on the streets, right, because of their marital situations or whatever. There's people who are homeless for all kinds of reasons, okay? But I do believe that there's a lot of homeless people who are the result of this foolishness, of this sort of barbaric behavior that goes on in the workplace, and that is perpetuated by family members, just strange stuff, And there are some people, such as myself, who understand and recognize cruelty for what it is, and it is cruel. It is extremely cruel. And but we have these groups, these main group of people, these people who don't have any empathy. They don't have the ability to what do you call it? Foresee or come to understand that there's a negative result to the things that they do, and the person who is on the receiving end of it has to live in a situation that is just absolutely unbearable, unfair. I mean, completely unfair. And that's the imbalance of power, and it is an abuse of power. So I do think that there's a lot of people who are homeless, who are victims of this form of abuse of power. And a lot of it comes from the workplace. And I've seen, this arrogance in upper management in certain positions. They like to play like this God thing. They have this God complex, And I see them puffed up with pride sometimes, like when they have to terminate a person. They actually get off on it. And they feel this, I don't know, maybe this rush or whatever. It's twisted, but people can change when they get in positions of power, and I've mentioned this before. You've seen examples of it, where somebody gets a responsibility and it might put them in a position where they can tell someone what to do, or direct. They should be directing, but they get absolutely bossy beyond control. And it's a dangerous society. It's a dangerous world, out there. And so I know when people tell me, oh, I'm a Christian, that used to mean something to me, because when I was younger, I really did believe that when a person claimed to be a devout member of a religious group, that they understood that these principles are what make you, or is supposed to make you, be able to identify as a Christian. Otherwise, you're just a hypocrite, right? So when people tell me this, when I was younger, I used to think, oh, okay, well, this person means, this should mean that I can trust them, that I should be able to get understanding from them, that they're going to reference biblical materials, when they want to formulate an opinion, whatever. I figured that these people would be the most fair and understanding people. They should be anyway, okay? And I did recognize that there was a lot of hypocrisy, but I felt as though when people said that they were a Christian, that they were not like Jesus, but somebody who tried to be, as humans, could only be so good, right? But now that I'm older, it's like sometimes I wonder, when people just come right out and tell me I'm a Christian, are they saying this because they're trying to hide something? Because I mean, now that doesn't mean anything to me. It's like, I look at how people live their lives and how they behave, and only by that way can I determine whether or not there's someone that I'm going to allow myself to get close to or get to know, because that doesn't mean anything to me. It doesn't. You know, you talk is cheap. That doesn't mean a damn thing to me, you know. So I have what I guess I could call it, this sick, not sick, but it's more like this sad feeling of, you know, understanding that that there's more garbage in the world than there are people who are trying to do what's right. You know, there's a lot of garbage out there. And you think about people who are by themselves or whatever, who have to kind of get through this world in all of this, you know, chaos is what it is, you know. I remember, I think it was 2016. I don't know when it was, but it was like at the heart of my targeting. It's like I don't think I realized at the time. It might have been. I even did a video on it, but I don't know exactly the timeline of it. I'd have to go back. But I was basically talking to a member of city council on the phone one day when I was talking about my issue of targeting. This is somebody who keeps saying that, you know, this town, you know, I guess the rest of America should mimic this town and whatever, and she bragged about her Christian principles and whatever. I'm like, no, America doesn't need to mimic the behavior, the ideas, the standards of this community. They don't. That's the worst advice or worst motto or worst saying that anybody could ever say. Because I will tell you that this community has been absolutely horrible to people like me. I have experienced it, and they will use their religion to make themselves look like holy people when in fact they're really not. You know, I'm not trying to bash this community. There's some very nice people that I've met, or at least they, you know, it's their mask. But I will say that this is what I've experienced, and it's true. You know, I don't know, you know, just, I don't, that kind of babble. Like, I'm tired of hearing about people acting like, I don't even think people really know what Christian principles are. I think it's just like a secret society club where people get benefits, is basically what it is, or what they've made it into. And I guess I'm just somebody who's able to see that. So, anyway, I've been talking enough, and I'm going to go ahead and wrap up this video, and I will be back with another video some other time later. Have a great day.